Well, brouhaha, shenanigans, and hoo-ha. I mean, it's been an amazing 2 weeks in Ghana with this banking crisis, or should I say financial crisis. And interestingly, from everything I've heard, from the reports and all, usually I think people feel, oh, this is a Ghanaian issue. But we are forgetting we have a huge number of brothers and sisters from other countries who live here with us, who've also were working in these banks or have invested or had money in these banks. I mean, Leand, this whole shenanigan or brouhaha, like some people say, how do you feel about this banking crisis? What do you understand by this crisis from the perspective of a citizen?
Quite interesting. I think, like you said, I also heard, like you and we all here, that we are facing banking crisis. I think it started some month, was it last year? Sometimes,
last year.
I can't even remember. Or last 2 years.
No, actually, what happened was last year, the Bank of Ghana intervened for two of our banks, UT Bank and Capital Bank, to be taken over. GCB bidded for it to take over because they were going through a liquidity crisis. So they took over. So that's when the whole banking thing came to the fore. But apparently research had been done for over 5, almost to 7 years, that has shown that this crisis was actually coming. Yeah.
So what people are talking about now is issue that happened like a year ago. Is it what it means?
Yes. So what has happened is that there's a report that came out called the Boulders Report. They wrote a report on a specific bank, Capital Bank, one of the banks that were taken over by GCB. And what came out was basically corporate governance challenges, some of the stuff that you've heard, and how certain monies that were given to these banks to help liquidify the banks were, to some people's minds, misapplied, right, and used for other things. And so many of these banks now have been, so 7 of these banks, Capital Bank, and UT Bank have become part of GCB. But this year, 7 other banks too have collapsed and have been consolidated into what you call the consolidated bank. Okay, so what's happened is that because of this, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people who had investments.
No, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
I think I saw on the news.
I find it difficult to get their investments.
I saw a newspaper, was it 2 days ago or even yesterday, that's about 1,700 people that will be laid off, if I want to say so, if not sacked. And also, I also saw on social media, but okay, I'm here to get confirmation about it, that some of them who are working now, they are going to pay only 30% of their salary.
Yeah,
they were 30%.
Yeah, so their salaries were slashed by 70%. I mean, this is according to media reports.
Yes, they were not even informed about it. They went there, took the this in the pay slip, and saw that. They were quite surprised. So the whole issue, when it comes to social development, we have 3 pillars or 3 legs. We have government, we have what we call the watchdog sector, civil society, and we have private sector. The private sector, the essence of private sector is job creation, growth, dynamic. We need a dynamic and job creation private sector. But when you have the private sector now, that is killing jobs. That is a concern, that is the issue. That means there is something wrong. But me, as citizen, my issue is also, we should not only discuss about management practice within the commercial bank, what has happened, but those who are also controlling, in terms of governing, controlling role, for example, Bank of Ghana.
You mean the regulators?
The regulator, what they have done to avoid that?
Exactly.
The banks were collapsing. You gave them money, try to support them. For me, for this amount of money that we're giving you, they should also follow the use of that money closely. This kind of micromanagement. So you think
some poor monetary?
Yeah, they should have done it. Because this issue, it goes beyond Ghana. You see what is happening in francophone countries. When in West Africa, you have 8 countries who are using CFA. And when you use some of the clauses between France and the countries that are using the CFA, it's more like you even weep, because it seems like is colonization still ongoing. When people have to deposit some percentage in the treasury of France there to keep it, to regulate for them. So we who want that changes, we want that, we want now to take over, we want to manage our own currency. We use Ghana, Nigeria as examples. But when you are seeing this thing happening in Ghana, that means they are giving agreement to other people who are attacking us, that we cannot manage our own stuff. So Ghana and so government or regulators, they need to play their role effectively to avoid this kind of crisis. We should show that we are the top of the subject. It should not have happened. And more importantly, and that we need to stress on is that when you, for example, you know what the issue is happening, people are mentioning people. I can hear that some of the names, big names, quote to say so, and quote in quote, that have been mentioned. What I've learned also from that is that when you become a public person, you no longer have a private life. You may have what I may say secret life, but you don't have a private life. What you are doing in your private life, if people don't know, that is secret. But people will try to know because you are a public person.
That's right.
So you should not have a compartmented life. What you are displaying out there, you also need it to display it in your private life. I'm not accusing anyone. I think there's an investigation ongoing, and I respect so much the institution of Ghana. That's why I give them credit for that. And I have many friends Ghanaian. I tell them I respect them. So let's wait. When a report will come out, we'll see. Of course, if people have taken action that were not done on good faith, then definitely should bring them to book.
Yeah, the law must take it.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I think private life, public life, it does. To me, you can be a public person, public figure, and have a private life. It's your right to have a private life. Okay, but I'm seeing it with another point of view, because what's government doing? What is the government doing about the people who have been affected by this thing? It's already happened. We can keep complaining about it. Why did government not take measures that should be there to prevent something like that to happen? Of course, Ghana and Nigeria, they are model. But thank God in Guinea we have our own currency, but we're not going through this crisis. but we have private banks, but they are not collapsing. So my money is safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
For now.
For now, no, I know it will be safe. But what is government doing about my friend who is losing the job?
That's
What's
right.
government doing about? Or even not government, the private sector, okay?
These companies.
Those companies.
Because some are
What they
struggling.
doing
No, but I
about-
think when you
some
say
are struggling
government,
to get
government is
their
not Bank of
money.
Ghana.
I'm coming.
yeah.
Government is Bank of Ghana.
Yeah.
Yes, but a friend of mine gave me an example last week.
Yes.
He went to the bank. He had to pay his school fee, so he went to withdraw his money, but they told him to wait. He cannot have the money now. He should wait. How long? Up to now, he has not gotten his money yet.
It's
so
part
who is
of the
going to pay?
consolidated bank.
It's part of that so-called consolidated bank. Okay.
What they call console.
Okay, well, I think maybe it's a strategy they put in place to address the issue.
Yeah.
But people are in need. Some people losing their money, their job, they have family. What is going to happen to those families? What is going to happen to their children? And what are they? Are they even caring about that? It's not about saying that about 70,000 of people are going to lose, and 70% of
1,700.
1,700, and 70% of
their
people who are
salaries.
working their salary. What are they thinking about? What will happen to their family, their children, their wife? That is what we should think of addressing. That's the issue now. It has already happened. So governments will think about what is going to be done for people.
How do we
not-
cushion
Yeah.
so many people that have lost their jobs
Yes.
and affected families? Because I was listening to Joy FM once, I think it was last week. Some guys were talking about how the things they now have to do to survive.
Yes.
You see?
Uber drivers,
Yes.
catering services, other things just to survive, and they're trying to maintain a certain lifestyle.
And they were not prepared.
Yeah,
for
because
this
see,
thing.
their children and their families are
They are
used to a certain
dependent.
lifestyle.
Exactly.
Now, how do you go and tell your children that, look, I can't afford to take you to the school that I used to take you to because this has happened. Now I have to take you to another school. All these things can be very traumatic
Yes, yes.
for these individuals. And I think the discussion on what to do now to cushion these number of people has not been adequate.
And
the
that's-
focus
that's bad.
has been on personality.
Personalities.
Directors of these banks.
Yes.
There's been a focus on this bank, which I understand because people want to find those who are responsible, which I think is perfect. But what happens now to those who are working these banks that are going to lose their jobs? And you know the sad part? I know somebody who said, look, I went looking for another bank job. And they told me, they asked me, which bank are you from? Then he mentioned one of them, one of the console. And you know what happened? The guy said, so you are one of them that contributed to a collapsed bank, and you now want to come and work in my bank. So now there's even a stigma.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you imagine, attached to those who were working for some of these collapsed banks previously? I think it's a very sad.
I'm happy that you are saying that. But the focus, that's what I want to say. The focus also should not be only on the commercial or the director. We should also include the regulators.
I agree. The regulator, there needs to be reform in the Bank of Ghana. But the thing is, Bank of Ghana's claim, I hope it's true, that they have some internal mechanisms they put in place to ensure reform.
But why is he happy for the past 2 years?
Somebody didn't do his job.
A lot of people didn't do their jobs.
Of course, because if you do your job, something like this shouldn't happen. Because students are involved, okay? A lot of people are involved. And they start thinking, let me say this. You know, I have paid attention to something in Ghana here. It's majority of government officers are into private business. And you see, it's become very difficult for you to be a regulator and also be
an actor.
An actor. It's very difficult. Because when it happens like that, you will not be able to control. You can't be monitoring and be the same person who is implementing the activity.
A friend of mine came to me, just to emphasize on this whole situation, how it's affecting families. He had invested almost 3 years in one of the investment organizations. There's no need to mention names, but they are part of the console. The console. Yeah, but and they gave fantastic rates for fixed term deposits. Unfortunately, the money matured just 2 days before the crisis. Or is it 2 days after? I'm not really sure. And since then, the person's been trying to get this money. And it's been very difficult because he keeps on getting messages. Yes, they tell him that he should be patient. They are working at it. They are still doing a consolidation process. They gave him a time. The first time he was about to go there, they gave him another message. And it's becoming very, very difficult. And what it's causing is that not only the people, these entities that have collapsed, but other entities, other investment organizations and finance houses are also suffering because Ghanaians have almost losing trust in the banking system and are removing their money. So there's a run on the financial institutions. So all the financial institutions are under some stress. Serious stress.
So we have people who have lost their job.
Yes.
We have people who have put money there. That is difficult for them to take it.
Yes.
Now we have also the banking sector now is also getting some feedback.
Yes.
And we have people who are working there and their salary is being
exactly
70%.
And some people don't even know for how long they will have these jobs because some in Consolidated they're doing a skills audit of everybody. Because they have to close
I want to find
some
out
of these branches.
The support that the Bank of Ghana gave to them, that's money, that huge amount of money.
Yes.
Is it taxpayers' money? Or is the money that the banks, the commercial bank deposited there?
No, you have to understand something. The Bank of Ghana supports these commercial banks to be liquid. So the Bank of Ghana giving money to these commercial banks is something that is normal practice. Sometimes every single bank, including some of the strong ones, they need money.
But where is that money coming from?
They need money.
It's taxpayers' money.
It's taxpayers' money. It's not money.
So, but it's not free money, it's a loan.
Okay.
It's never free.
I think it's a loan with interest.
Yes, and then they pay it back according to a specific schedule. Yeah. So that's what happens. So it's actually normal practice. The issue people have with the regulators that you brought up and Joras brought up is in terms of the supervision. How thorough has it been? Because they should have, a lot of people argue that they should have foreseen.
Yeah, because when you have 5 banks collapsing.
Yes, so people are calling to question their supervision department. Okay, their competency, their effectiveness. What is happening there? Right, and so people are calling for reform.
No, of course they should call for reform. I'm not trying to accuse anybody here, but you cannot pursue it if you are an action man. You can't be the watchdog, okay, and you also be someone who is implementing. It's impossible.
Like some of them are involved.
So of course, I don't want to mention anybody's name, but you will see some of the government officers who are supposed to be monitoring the regulation of regulating all those things have invested. They have actions. They have share those banks. So it will be very difficult for them
conflict
to,
of
you know.
interest.
And I think when Charles is talking about the trust issue, it's even very difficult for people to even trust these consolidated banks as well. You were alone, you collapsed. Now you're coming together. What makes us sure that you're going to survive? So it's something, you know, government should know what to be done. It's government government should watch it and monitor it. I like when the first, I don't know if it was the first two banks that
Capital Bank
and the government took over. Are they still surviving?
Yeah, it's part of GCB now.
And everything's okay. So the people.
But I think the console now it's being managed by government basically.
No, they've all consolidated into one. Yeah, but Bank of Ghana has has got some like a management kind of system mechanism.
Cool.
So you know the Bank of Ghana have this mechanism when they take over, like with a consolidated, they give it to a receiver to manage it. Yeah. So that's what's happening now.
But Charles, I think this whole issue, there is a big social crisis that we have to look at it carefully. And I'm now even calling on the government also to put his foot in before it becomes another thing that we cannot manage. When you see this part of the world that we find ourselves, when you have someone that is a worker, you will see how many dependents the person have. And you have thousands over thousands people who are losing jobs. We are not talking about one bank, we are not talking about two, we are not talking about three. Even happened a few months or 2 years ago, it's happening again. 5 together.
7.
I think even 7. So we need to make sure in terms of regulation and government also, these people who are losing their job, we need to find a way. Find a way before it becomes something, a social crisis. You see, people, maybe some even have taken loans. For example, they have this mortgage for houses, even for car, and you are not planned for that, and it has happened. You have to eat. What should we do?
No, it's a serious problem. It's because, and it's affecting. I think the depth and the impact of this. I think a lot of people are underestimating how many families this has touched. Right. And I think for me it's beyond the crisis. And what happens now in terms of what happens with the actions central bank takes in terms of regulation, the actions government takes, and the actions citizens themselves take to ensure that this never happens again is critical.
It's critical.
It's very crucial.
And I'm not just concerned about what action the government is taking actually to regulate or to fix those banks. But the concern, I want to hear about from the government. What are they really doing about the people who are losing their job? What are they really doing about people who have their money there? Maybe they say after fixing everything, people will get their money. But those
we should also fix the system.
No, you see, government should tell us something about that.
Yes, definitely, they have to look at it. It happened years ago, 2 years ago. It's happening again. So across the spectrum, government should make sure that in terms of regulation, control systems, mechanisms, people should comply. I mean, to basic things.
Compliance.
It should be the way forward. Compliance.
Proper corporate governance standards.
We should
hold our directors to high standards. When you're a director of the bank, and we need to look at the rules that either certify whether you're even qualified to be a director of specific institutions, so especially financial institutions. We need to look at the background of directors. We need to really make it clear, unambiguous.
Of course.
So we need to look at some of the laws and reform it. We don't do it now. I suspect this will happen again.
Definitely.
I suspect this will happen again.
If people do not do their work, it will happen again.
It
will be happening and happening again. And it will be affecting people's life. When it brings unemployment, it brings bad people in the society. Because if you don't have money to feed your family, you may go and be looking it elsewhere. I don't want to mention it. It's high time for government to start addressing this issue critically.
Compliance.
For it to not happen again. Very basic issue.
No, I agree.
So compliance is the master word. You see,
compliance.
You see,
it's all about
country like Singapore. Some people I've heard people saying that. No, why is that in Ghana we have about 27 or 30 million people? You have more than 30 banks. That's why people have to get together. Yes, it's also a good idea for people getting together. You become stronger. But when you see Singapore, they are 4 million. They have more than 40 banks. but it's working.
Compliance.
That's compliance.
Respect for the rules.
Yes,
The rules are also enforced.
It's not bad to have
Proper supervision.
It's not bad
And of
to have
course,
local
ultimately,
banks.
leadership.
Leadership. It's not bad to have a lot of bank or local bank around, but leadership should be something that we should look at.